As his lips met mine with a fervor that transcended the ordinary, the universe around us fractured into shards of undeniable reality. I took a step back. My breath came in quick, hurried gasps. The rhythmic thrum of my heartbeat resonated within my ears. Welcome to the realm of emotional love stories. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments below, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. May you find yourself enveloped in delightful and serene moments. Thank you very much. Let us now set forth on the adventure that awaits within the tale. Certain moments are often described as being etched into the very fabric of our memories, remaining vivid and unyielding as time flows on. No matter how hard we try to forget them, they cling to your memories, revolving in an unending loop like a tired vinyl, over and over, until you begin to question whether they ever truly happened at all. It has been 2 years since that fateful night unfolded. 2 years have passed since I stepped into a realm I never imagined I would explore. 2 years have passed since I stood at the edge of something dangerous, something forbidden. Instead of retreating, I embraced the moment, shutting my eyes and letting it reveal itself. What evokes a chill along your spine? I find myself contemplating whether it was a blunder or a choice I was fated to accept from the outset. The atmosphere that evening hung thickly, nearly suffocating in its grasp. The city lights merged into a glimmering mist as I made my way along the sidewalk, the crisp sound of my heels resonating against the pavement, my skin aglow from savoring one too many glasses of wine. Indulgence was never part of the blueprint I had in mind. I had pledged to myself just one glass, maybe. In a time long past, there existed two. I had vowed with unwavering resolve to keep control over the circumstances at hand. However, when a person feels empty inside, promises may appear as nothing more than faint echoes, lacking any real substance. For what seemed like an endless stretch of time, I existed as a hollow shell, lacking any essence. In a time not so distant, a gathering of colleagues unfolded, intended to be a charming diversion, a fleeting whisper of joy, fragile and transient. A brief escape from the cold and quiet of the dwelling I shared with my partner. A residence that radiated the spirit of a gallery, lacking the inviting embrace of a true home. He barely glanced in my direction, scarcely spoke a word. I had become an element of the room, a presence that merged effortlessly with the surroundings, unnoticed and unappreciated. As my colleagues laughed at my jokes, inching closer, their gazes held a warmth that my husband's never had. I permitted myself to relish the experience, if only for one fleeting evening. In the briefest of instants, each moment bears the profound burden of its own consequences. As I stepped into the night, the world around me started to swirl and twirl in a captivating rhythm. In that blurred instant, I found myself precariously balanced between tipsy and intoxicated, my phone slipping from my grasp as I clumsily reached out for my husband. The phone persisted in its ringing, reverberating through the stillness. Silence hung in the atmosphere, an emptiness where conversation ought to have flowed. The silence lingered, hanging in the air like a breath held in suspense. Absolutely not. As I released a quiet breath, I felt myself delicately rocking to and fro. The streetlights twinkled in a soft, ethereal light. The call of home beckoned me on my journey. Yet one might ponder the manner in which this unfolds, and then his voice emerged, a voice that lingered in the hallways of my mind, both comforting and eerie, reverberating like an old story eager to be shared. a voice enveloped me, akin to a familiar cozy blanket, soothing and recognizable. "Do you find yourself? Are you well?" I turned, my eyelids gently parting. He stood beneath the streetlight, his face shrouded in half-shadow, eyes glimmering with a mysterious charm that slipped through my grasp. Concern? Joy? Or maybe something even more profound. In a time long past, there existed a figure known as Thomas, my stepson, a pivotal character in the narrative of our existence. Under the moonlit sky that evening, an unexpected figure emerged, capturing the attention of all who beheld it. The last person I should have called forth, and there he remained, resolute. In that fleeting instant, shrouded in a fog of intoxication and bewilderment, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. Upon reflection, it became clear that I ought to have said no. I implored him to depart. Countless paths lay before me, each one a potential journey waiting to unfold. In that instant, I yielded and permitted him to take hold of my hand. I permitted him to guide me to his car. As we traversed the barren streets, his voice held a calmness, his presence steadfast. Yet a soft whisper within me warned, "This is dangerous." I felt an absence of concern. Before I unveil the next chapter of this narrative, make sure to subscribe to Affair Revealed, where authentic confessions expose the profound depths of human emotion. Trust me, this story is just starting to reveal itself. In a distant realm, there lived a young woman by the name of Mia. At 38, I paused to contemplate the intricate tapestry of experiences that have come together to shape the individual I have become. Once upon a time, had you asked me that question, I would have regaled you with stories of a life richly experienced, a perfect blend, a snug dwelling, a cadence that resonated beautifully. As the journey progressed, life morphed into something altogether distinct. It transformed into a barren wasteland. Loneliness slips in softly, akin to a shadow settling at twilight. It glides with a tender grace, threading its way through the realms of tranquility and untouched skin. Then, on a fateful morning, you awaken to the chilling truth that you have transformed into a mere shadow in the narrative of your own life. That encapsulated my marriage, a domain where I existed, yet went unseen. My husband, David, was a man who took care of us. He labored relentlessly, making certain that the bills were paid, firmly believing that this was all that was required. It may have been intended for him. However, for me, it was not. It seems like an eternity since he looked at me with that yearning, as though I were the very essence of his dreams. In that last instant, he extended his hand toward me, unburdened by any constraints or anticipations. It was the last instance he asked after my welfare, hanging on to each syllable. On certain nights, I would lie beside him, my eyes fixed on the ceiling, lost in contemplation of the journey that had led us to this very moment. Once, two souls intertwined, unable to resist the magnetic pull between them, now exist as mere shadows of their former selves, living as strangers beneath the same roof. I comforted myself with the thought that it was merely a facet of life's unremarkable rhythm. Ah, how love evolves with the passage of time, as that once fiery passion begins to wane. Amidst the chaos, there remained Thomas. Thomas, my stepson, had transcended the innocence of his youth. At 25, he found himself poised on the edge of life's grand escapades. He was powerful and compassionate, and in a manner that his father never managed, he genuinely perceived me. It started as a mere whisper. Bathed in the soft light of the kitchen, words danced effortlessly as David immersed himself in his work late into the night. In a world not so far away, a witty little jest lingered, eager to find its voice. A brief glance in that direction, he managed to lift my spirits when the weight of the world pressed down upon me. He listened intently, and slowly, I realized that I craved those moments more than I had anticipated. I reassured myself that it was merely a trivial concern. A wave of gratitude washed over me for the attention I was fortunate enough to receive. Nevertheless, I remained cognizant of the reality. Thomas had intricately intertwined himself into the very essence of my existence since his adolescence. Nevertheless, a transformation had occurred. In a way that felt distinct and extraordinary, we forged connections that slipped past the grasp of others. And perhaps that understanding was transforming into something more profound. At the center of our existence, there resided a dwelling, a sanctuary of elegance that murmured tales of solace and affection. Certainly, nevertheless, a chill lingered in the air, a domain where quietude reverberates in the atmosphere. In that quietude, I found myself yearning for the comforting touch of warmth. In every nook, I could discover it. And that night, when Thomas emerged, I unearthed it within him. In a time long past, the night unfolded in a manner familiar to all. In that moment, I softly confided in my own heart. In a time long past, the company convened for its yearly festivity. Generally, it wouldn't concern me. This year, however, I embarked on a quest for meaning, to embellish one's appearance, to liberate oneself, to fully embrace the very essence of existence. After much contemplation, I chose to don a sleek black dress that accentuated my curves flawlessly. I am savoring each moment, meticulously crafting every detail to perfection. As I positioned myself before the mirror, I inclined my head at just the right angle, setting forth on a journey to rediscover the woman I used to be. The individual who once held the very spirit of beauty in their arms, yearned for. In the theater of my imagination, I saw David positioned just behind me. His hands rested softly on my waist, whispering tender secrets into my ear. Upon entering the bedroom, I found his eyes glued to the glow of his laptop screen. Barely recognizing my existence, "Do not stay awake for me," I instructed, a whimsical test expressed through my words. Anticipating his reaction with keen interest, a fleeting shimmer of jealousy, a soft nudge to proceed with caution, he stayed transfixed, offering only a silent nod. His eyes were fixed on the dancing light of the screen ahead. In that instant, a wave of understanding enveloped me, and thus the answer unveiled itself. In the city's vibrant core, a sophisticated bar provided the perfect backdrop for an extraordinary assembly. Within the gentle embrace of twilight's whispers, soft tunes waltz through the whispers of conversation, the joyful clink of glasses coming together. Exuberant laughter and cheerful chatter resonated among clusters of colleagues. The ambiance pulsed with life and exuberance, warm and inviting. All that my home once represented had long since faded away. In the twilight of the day, I found myself cradling a glass of wine, ready to embrace the evening ahead. From a singular entity, two arose. From the union of two, a third was born. With every sip, a feeling of lightness wrapped around me, elevating my spirits to new heights. It seemed as if I was casting off the tired, concealed, and unwelcome layers of my own identity. As our conversation unfolded, Daniel, a colleague of mine, approached closer. His posture revealed a palpable curiosity. His gaze flickered across my lips. His laughter cascaded softly, reminiscent of a tranquil stream. It piqued my curiosity. I found great pleasure in the attention I received. His gaze glided over my figure with an almost poetic grace. It had been years since David's had traversed this path. In that ephemeral moment, a flicker of enchantment rekindled within me once again. I was anything but naive. I grasped the journey the night could embark upon, if I permitted it to reveal itself. Yet, beneath the surface, I held a keen awareness of the truth. Daniel was not the individual I envisioned. That revelation struck with a power surpassing that of the drink itself. The chamber spun softly in a delicate dance around my being. A gentle warmth enveloped my body. The air was a vital essence I yearned for. The siren song of home summoned me forth. In a flurry of urgency, I grasped my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed David's number. The ring's sound reverberated through the atmosphere, and it resonated with a gentle chime, and it echoed through the air. The stillness hung heavily, an emptiness where an answer ought to have emerged. Indeed. With a deep exhale, I opened my eyes, attempting to dispel the swirling haze that surrounded me. Perhaps I shall call for a cab. Or maybe, just maybe, I would tarry a little longer, yearning to hold on to this feeling with both hands. Suddenly, the stillness was shattered by an unexpected buzz from my phone. "Greetings, Thomas. How are you faring these days?" In that instant, I halted, ensnared in the intricate threads of doubt. The solution that appeared so straightforward yet eluded my grasp like a fleeting shadow. My hands moved with a life of their own, racing ahead of my thoughts, which struggled to keep pace. There, I found myself, having indulged a touch too freely, making my way back home. Much to my astonishment, a reply arrived sooner than I had expected. "Oh, Thomas, where have your footsteps led you now?" After a swift glance at my surroundings, I input the address. "Thomas, I am on my way to you now." As I stared at the screen, a thrill of anticipation stirred within me, not from relief, but from an entirely different origin. In the blink of an eye, I stepped out into the vast expanse of the world beyond. The brisk night air teased my warm skin. The city lights twinkled and twirled, weaving a captivating haze that enveloped me. Surrounding me, the world appeared to dissolve into a surreal mist. And then, he stood before me. He leaned against his car, hands tucked deep into his pockets, his eyes locked onto mine with unwavering intensity. He gazed with a unique intensity. Not entirely the young man I had cultivated, unlike the boy who once created a path of mud throughout the kitchen floor. This evening, he emerged as a figure reborn. A man who came forth with steadfast determination. A man whose gaze held an enigma I struggled to articulate. I inhaled deeply. With a soft push, he distanced himself from the vehicle and started his advance toward me. "Ah, how you present yourself," he commenced. He paused, his eyes roaming over me in a way that made my breath hitch. "Magnificent." A hesitant laugh slipped from my mouth. I may seem somewhat inebriated. He sported a cunning smile. Certainly, that too. A tangible unease hung in the air around us. Heavy, hushed murmurs hover in the atmosphere. Yet my thoughts were shrouded in a haze, preventing me from fully understanding the essence of it all. With a tender gesture, he reached out his hands, offering me a feeling of reassurance. The soft touch of his fingers on my skin sparked a pleasurable shiver that traveled up my spine. It was a soft touch, truly unblemished. However, an undeniable shadow lay hidden just beneath the surface. I I felt it as he led me to the car, his grip lingering for a moment longer than required. A flicker of electricity surged as he helped me into the seat, his fingers brushing softly against my thigh. In that ephemeral instant, as our eyes met, time appeared to elongate for just a heartbeat before he finally closed the door. As he eased into the driver's seat, a palpable electricity enveloped the air around us. I should have found my voice. In a time long past, a joke came into existence, a delightful distraction. Yet I stood motionless, taking in the spectacle that was unfolding before me. He finds himself engulfed in emotions that were never intended to be felt. As the vehicle gracefully departed from the edge of the sidewalk, one solitary idea twirled through the haze. This presents a considerable danger, yet it holds no importance for me. The return was steeped in a profound quietude, but it was devoid of the comforting embrace of the silences we had once held dear. The stillness wrapped around all, dense and tangible, brimming with an electric tension. As the miles unfurled beneath us, the feeling intensified, an invisible thread drawing us closer. I persuaded myself that it was merely a creation of my own mind. His deeds were merely a mirror of his benevolence. I discovered myself enveloped in a fog of inebriation. Yet I was not so intoxicated that I couldn't perceive it. As I turned my head, my eyes traced his figure as he maneuvered along the path before him. His hands gripped the wheel with fierce intensity, knuckles white and poised for action. With a firm jaw and an unwavering gaze directed forward, he remained steadfast. Occasionally, his eyes would flicker toward me, a brief and subtle movement, nearly undetectable, yet I managed to seize it. The manner in which he looked at me. The look was not one a son should direct toward his stepmother. A surge of guilt enveloped me, sudden and intense, coiling my stomach in tight, painful twists. This was Thomas, the boy I had raised with care, the son of the man I vowed to hold dear. What was it about his presence that infused the air with warmth and joy? What was it about his presence that soothed a part of me that had been longing for solace for such an extended time? As I sat with my hands firmly intertwined in my lap, I sensed my breath begin to waver. This was unjust. Yet, if it was genuinely so improper, why did a warm flush rise to my neck as he extended his hand toward the gear shift, his fingers tantalizingly near my knee? What caused my stomach to twist was the way he exhaled with intensity, his hands clenching the wheel tighter, as though he were engaged in a struggle against an invisible adversary. The desire to break free from that vehicle was all-consuming, quick and agile. As we approached the driveway, the house stood silently, shrouded in an air of tranquility. The shadows wrapped around the landscape, shrouding it in an eerie embrace. David had vanished without a single trace. With a firm turn of the key, Thomas muted the engine, enveloping the surroundings in a serene stillness. With a quivering hand, I clutched the door handle, longing to escape the oppressive tension that enveloped me. In that fleeting moment, do you find yourself well? His voice enveloped the air with a soothing whisper, steady and serene, excessively steadfast. After a brief pause, I inclined my head in agreement. Certainly. The seductive charm of an excess of wine, a narrative as ancient as the ages. He stood motionless. I did not either. The air inside the car was dense, simmering with an indescribable tension. Thomas ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, a movement that revealed the turmoil of his mind. Come closer. Allow me to lead you within. I should have taken the time to say goodbye to him. In that moment, one could have discovered a touch of humor. I should have dared to enter alone. As he opened my door and reached out his hand, I discovered that I was surrendering effortlessly. As I emerged, his arm elegantly encircled my waist. His gentle caress, unwavering yet soft, exuded a palpable strength. A soft cocoon of quiet enveloped me, and for a brief instant, I surrendered to its comforting embrace. When was the last time I experienced the comforting embrace of someone who truly cared for me? When did someone last look at me with such fervor? Pause your advance. I squeezed my eyes shut, shoving the thought into the depths of darkness. Ah, this was the vintage, the fatigue, the allure of rest beckoned to me. Allow it to fade into the distance. As he led me to the door, his warmth enveloping me, I felt the weight of his gaze, and deep within my soul, I understood. He felt it too. A muted throb pulsed at the back of my skull as consciousness crept in, a haunting echo of the dreams that flitted just out of reach. Last night enveloped me in a warm, nostalgic hug. As the gentle light began to wane, the room exuded an enigmatic charm. The delicate light of dawn filtered softly through the curtains. My mouth was dry and my limbs felt heavy. Yet beneath the surface, an unsettling feeling persisted within me. This moment was not brought about by the wine. Everything leads back to him, ignited by the feeling of his hands gently placed on my waist. The way he looked at me in the car stayed with me, haunting my thoughts long after the moment had passed. For within me, shrouded in shame and hidden from view, there existed a longing for him to take that step. With a deep exhale, I allowed my fingers to glide through my hair. Ah, the allure of the rich dark brew summoned me forth. A swift rush of frigid water, a narrative of release. With a hesitant breath, I extricated myself from the cozy embrace of my bed and ventured down the hallway, each footfall a soft murmur in the tranquility of the dawn. Anticipation lingered in the atmosphere, a quietude that hinted at the gravity of unvoiced sentiments. A kitchen stripped of vitality, yet his presence lingered. Thomas paused at the counter, enveloped by the rich aroma of coffee that danced in the air as he poured the dark brew into his mug. Upon hearing the echo of my arrival, he turned to meet my gaze. In that ephemeral instant, our eyes met and the world around us faded into silence. A transient silhouette glided over his visage. An enigma unfolds. "Morning," he murmured, his voice softer than usual. With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. Ah, the emergence of a fresh day. With a fluid motion, he offered the cup to her. "I prepared a cup of coffee exclusively for you. I sensed that this might prove useful for you." I hesitated, my fingers resting against his for a moment that stretched just a heartbeat longer than needed. It was merely a small detail. A soft touch, a momentary trivial graze, yet the ambiance shifted dramatically. It is possible that the transformation had already occurred, and I was merely beginning to recognize it. I relished the moment, allowing the bitterness to envelop me in search of a grounding presence within its depths. Ah, indeed, it was a genuine delight, without a doubt. There's no need for gratitude, my friend. Thomas leaned against the counter, arms crossed over his chest. "How do you find yourself feeling today? Is that acceptable?" I acknowledged him with a nod, but I could feel the uncertainty lingering in his gaze, and perhaps he was prudent not to, for there he remained, watching me with that penetrating gaze, as though I were a precious gem, worthy of admiration. My body felt alien, as though it were the possession of another. It pulsed with vitality, and that sent a chill through my very being. As the days passed, a delicate transformation started to thread itself into the essence of our bond. It revealed itself slowly, akin to the soft flipping of a leaf in a book. The tempo was unhurried, advance with care. Similar to the manner in which flames twirl and intertwine hidden beneath the ground, silently sparking before the initial tendrils of smoke ever reveal their existence. It commenced with the most minuscule of particulars, a momentary re-David, a look that hangs suspended in the atmosphere. He leaned in just a fraction too close as we spoke, enveloping me in the intimacy of the moment. On that fateful night, we found ourselves cocooned in the warmth of the living room, side by side. The television cast a dim glow, its mindless program playing out like a distant echo, while silence wrapped around us like a heavy blanket. Neither of us genuinely immersed ourselves in its antics. Once again, David found himself at the office, the hour creeping toward late, as it so frequently did. Within the quietude of the dwelling, silence held dominion. The stillness wraps around the surroundings. Thomas exhaled softly, his fingers weaving through his hair. "I don't understand," he murmured, his voice a fragile whisper, barely escaping his lips. With a momentary glance, I directed my eyes toward him. "What is it that you desire?" He turned his gaze toward me, his eyes rich with mystery and depth. "How he continues to be unaware of your existence." For a fleeting moment, my breath escaped me. A soft laugh escaped my lips as I shook my head, unable to fathom the absurdity of it all. In a distant realm, a figure known as Thomas emerged. "Oh, indeed." His voice acquired a more incisive tone, imbued with an undercurrent of something deeper. "He claims you as his own, yet he acts as if you are merely a whisper, lost in the silence, invisible and voiceless." I opened my mouth, then closed it tightly. What words could ever encapsulate it? For years I have been lost in contemplation of that very question. In the stillness of countless nights, I became ensnared in a web of contemplation, reflecting on the shifts in my husband's affection, reminiscent of the profound love his father once bestowed upon me. It would have been prudent to conclude the discussion at that juncture. Roused from my dreams, I wandered forth, a soft laugh escaping my lips as I continued on my way. In a time long past, there existed a certain something, yet I made the decision to refrain. After what felt like an eternity, a voice emerged, articulating the truth I had buried deep inside, a truth I had been too afraid to confront. As I looked at Thomas, a whirlwind of thoughts swirled through my mind. As I truly gazed upon him, I noticed the way his jaw tightened, the irritation that gleamed in his eyes, and a fracture began to form deep within me. There were moments when I would gently express my reflections. It appears to me that I could dissolve into nothingness, and he would continue on, blissfully oblivious. Thomas's expression darkened. "That will not suffice." With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. The convergence of two spirits, a joyous homage to love and devotion. "No," he declared, his voice unwavering. "Indeed, it is not." The stillness hung in the air, thick and heavy. In that fleeting moment, a wave of clarity enveloped me. This notion had evolved from a faint murmur lurking in the recesses of my mind into something much more dangerous. This is a genuine occurrence. This was a moment that neither of us could ever erase. It commenced with tender touches. As he offered the glass of water to me, our fingers grazed gently, a brief encounter that hung in the atmosphere. His hand grazed the small of my back, lingering for a heartbeat longer than needed as he moved gracefully through the kitchen. I comforted myself with the thought that it was nothing more than a minor concern. I persuaded myself that it was merely a creation of my own mind. Yet, I discovered that I was not in that realm. He was unwavering, standing firm and refusing to back down. Because I held my ground, the silence that stretched between us started to hum with an unmistakable force. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we settled into the embrace of the couch, captivated by the unfolding story on the screen. A message from David had arrived earlier. As you toil through the late hours, please do not sacrifice your rest on my account. Indeed, the lively spirits that traverse our world. The room was enveloped in a tender twilight where the subtle illumination of the TV flickered, casting playful shadows that waltzed across the walls, weaving an ambiance of serene mystery. Thomas took his place beside me, close enough to feel the warmth of his presence, yet maintaining a respectful space between us. At the outset, things were not as they are now. In that ephemeral instant, his knee brushed softly against mine. A path lay before me, a journey waiting to be embraced, distant from the place I found myself in. I did not do that. His eyes held mine for a moment longer than necessary, but I kept my attention fixed on the screen, pretending not to notice his scrutiny. In that fleeting instant, his hand shifted, a delicate alteration in the atmosphere, his fingers gently grazing against my own. A shiver ran through me, sending a quiver along my spine. Still, I found myself anchored in that very spot. The cadence of my heartbeat resonated within my ears. Feel the way my breath halts in my chest. This was the defining moment. In a distant realm, a line existed. It was a defining moment that changed the trajectory of all that followed. As he tilted his head slightly, a gentle warmth caressed my skin, a soft whisper of his breath hanging delicately in the air. Should I find myself looking at him now? Should our eyes lock in that moment? I knew I would be powerless to look away. I sensed he wouldn't either. In an instant, the jarring sound of a car door slamming reverberated from beyond the confines of the room. I drew back, my heart racing wildly in my chest. Thomas tensed beside me, his hand retracting with a speed that made it feel as though it had never occupied that space at all. Gentle footsteps resonated softly as they approached the door. In a distant realm, a figure known as David emerged into existence. The burden of reality enveloped me, cold and all-consuming. What in the world was I engaged in? What in the world were we engaged in? As the front door creaked open, I gathered the resolve to take a deep breath, to ascend and claim a place, to blend in seamlessly with the crowd. As David entered, casually flinging his keys onto the table without sparing a glance in my direction, an unsettling sensation enveloped me. A feeling of danger surrounded me as I stood at the edge, wavering on the threshold of the unfamiliar. And what could possibly be more terrifying? In that instant, I discovered myself ensnared in a conflict, pulled between the desire to withdraw and the exhilaration of plunging ahead. The night slipped away from me, leaving sleep a distant companion. Even after David came home, showered, and lay down next to me in quietude, my body still vibrated with the intensity of what had almost occurred. The soft touch of Thomas's hand, the gentle warmth of his breath, the pull I felt, such remarkable strength, it is undeniably certain. As I lay back, my eyes drawn to the ceiling above, I sensed the steady pulse of my heartbeat lingering in uncertainty. What was once simple solitude has evolved into something profoundly richer. It was a story that endured, not just a passing fancy. This was a story of authenticity, and it unfolded as a chilling experience. As the night fell once again, David had disappeared into the shadows once more. Once more, the clock chimes beyond the hour, And here we are, ensnared in yet another protracted meeting. Another story woven into existence. Once more, I found myself within these walls, a space that had surrendered its warmth and familiarity, compelling me to confront the solitude of the night. As I sank into the kitchen chair, I found myself idly swirling my tea, trying to dispel the weight that clung to my heart. And so, the story begins to reveal itself. Salutations. I lifted my eyes. Thomas stood in the doorway, his eyes locked onto mine. His expression was an enigma, a tapestry of feelings concealed just below the surface. Still, within those eyes lay a profound depth of emotion, a riddle that danced just beyond my grasp, yearning to be uncovered. I inhaled deeply. Salutations. With a resolute gait, he pressed onward, unhurried. Allow yourself the space to ponder and reflect on your thoughts. Are you feeling okay? Once again, that question has emerged from the depths of contemplation, the question he had raised in the car on that fateful night. The exact one around which I had woven my narrative. In this moment, I discovered that I lacked the ability to craft a deception. I softly shook my head, a delicate movement that conveyed a wealth of meaning. Not in any way. Thomas exhaled sharply, his fingers running through his hair in a restless motion. Indeed, he whispered softly. My skepticism lingered regarding that matter. The stillness hung in the air, thick and heavy. With a deliberate motion, he advanced a step. Not quick, soft in manner, a soft, steadfast demeanor directed at me. A moment lingered, a brief opportunity when I might have stepped in. Yet I allowed it to fade into the distance. I should have awakened from my sleep, taken a leisurely walk, and departed the room. In a time long past, there existed a certain something. Nevertheless, I made the decision to refrain. Deep within the recesses of my soul, I held a profound awareness. The suspense had been mounting for what seemed like a lifetime. A flicker of electricity surged through the air as his fingers brushed against mine on the couch. A surge of thankfulness enveloped me as he reached out his hand. He extended his hand, leading me out of the car. Every look he directed towards me filled me with the sensation of being a precious gem, worthy of admiration. My breath hitched in my throat as he drew closer, standing so near that I could feel his warmth wrapping around me. Speak the word, he murmured gently. Simply utter the command, and I will come to a halt. I opened my mouth. The stillness hung in the air, and nothing came forth. His hand ascended, fingers tracing the curve of my jaw, delicate as a whisper. A tremor swept over me at his caress, my form betraying truths that my thoughts fought to conceal. Then, he softly pressed his lips against mine, advance with care. He seemed hesitant, as if he were testing the waters of the unfamiliar, presenting me with an opportunity to step back. Nevertheless, I opted against it. After a long absence, an overwhelming surge of emotion enveloped me. A wave of belonging enveloped me. A wave of energy flowed within me. In that instant, when his lips pressed against mine with an intensity that transcended the ordinary, the universe unraveled into shards of undeniable reality. I drew back, my breath becoming rapid, the pounding of my heart resonating in my ears. Thomas remained motionless, his eyes fixed intently on mine. I cannot. In whispered breaths, I unveiled my thoughts. I feel a moment of pause within me. His jaw clenched, an unspoken tempest gathering inside him. What prompted you to return my kiss? I inhaled sharply, a quick breath catching in my throat. For it was an irrefutable reality. In that fleeting instant, I discovered myself reciprocating his kiss. This was a situation I had permitted to develop. This was a desire I had cherished for ages, and that enveloped me in a fear more profound than any I had ever known. I shook my head, my voice barely rising above a whisper, just on the verge of escaping my lips. "This is not as it should be." Thomas's expression darkened. "What inspires this inquiry?" The question sent a chill coursing through me. "What renders it unsuitable?" With an unwavering look, he leaned closer, his voice a soft but determined murmur. "Everything leads back to him." A tight knot twisted within my stomach. "Oh, Thomas, please, not that. Unveil your story to me." He stepped forward, each muscle taut with eager expectation. "Illuminate the reasons that suggest it is misguided for him to display a lack of concern for your well-being, when he perceives you as nothing more than an ornament." As darkness descends and you rest your head, a profound solitude envelops you, akin to a weighty shroud. My eyes brimmed with tears. This action cannot be justified. His expression softened, revealing a more tender side. His voice had morphed into a gentle murmur. "It seems unlikely. However, does it evoke a feeling of discomfort?" I opened my mouth, and thus it reached its conclusion. Simply because I discovered myself devoid of a response. In that instant, when his lips touched mine, when his hands grazed my skin, and when his gaze enveloped me in a way that made me feel truly acknowledged, everything aligned perfectly. It was an experience that transcended all others. An exquisite symphony that echoed profoundly within my soul. And so began the most treacherous chapter of the story. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair, a gesture laden with unvoiced reflections. His frustration lingered in the atmosphere, dense and oppressive, akin to a tempestuous cloud poised to unleash its fury. Yet, hidden beneath the facade was an entirely different reality, something raw and unpolished, something authentic. He hesitated, measuring his words with precision before resuming the dialogue. This thought has lingered in my mind for quite a while now. A sudden tension seized me. In a distant realm, a figure known as Thomas emerged. In a measured and thoughtful manner, he shook his head, as though the burdens of existence pressed heavily upon his mind. "Most certainly not. It must be articulated." His voice glided effortlessly, smooth and resolute, much like a tranquil stream. "You hold a significance in my life that transcends the role of a mere stepmother." My heart quickened with eager expectation. "I never have," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper, nearly swallowed by the silence around them. "Not exactly." As I looked at him, the fabric of logic started to unravel and drift into the ether. "You deserve more than what he gives you," Thomas continued, his voice laden with emotion. "It is your inherent entitlement to be craved, to be cherished, and if he remains oblivious to that..." He halted, inhaling deeply. Then, with a soft murmur, as though confiding a hidden truth, "Ah, I sense your arrival." For a fleeting moment, my breath caught in my throat. In that ephemeral moment, a wave of understanding enveloped me. He crafted a tale that extended far beyond the confines of the here and now. He recounted every instance when I had faded into the darkness, unnoticed, uncherished, concealed from sight. He had observed every facet of my being. In a time long past, a journey began to unfold, intricately weaving through the fabric of existence. where each step taken became a thread in a magnificent adventure, guiding us along the meandering trails of destiny. In that instant of realization, a captivating fusion of trepidation and thrill enveloped me. An overwhelming feeling enveloped me. The decision hung suspended in the atmosphere, an unspoken strain threading itself through the instant. Withdraw from the tableau. Envision it as a transient instant, adrift in the expansive weave of time. Persist in lingering within the void of a soulless connection, or yield. Grant me the chance to feel emotions anew. Permit myself to be sought after. At the core of my being, I grasped the journey that lay ahead of me. I was conscious of it. Yet, as Thomas's hand reached for mine again, his fingers lightly grazing my own, I discovered a newfound resolve within me. In the days that ensued, I maintained a careful distance from him, went to extraordinary measures to conceal the reality of what had occurred. I navigated the steps, each following the last in a seamless progression. Roused from slumber, awaken and embrace the day. This morning, I crafted a delightful breakfast. In a time long past, a modest individual set forth on the honorable journey of tackling the laundry, assumed the mantle of a committed partner in a marriage that had long since unraveled. I averted my eyes. The exchange was succinct. Each time Thomas stepped into a room, I found my way out. His presence wrapped around me, watching my every move from every corner. In a moment, frozen in time, a sense of anticipation hangs delicately in the atmosphere. What do you believe is the most concerning element? I longed for a gathering of souls to witness my essence. Deep within my heart, I longed for the sensation of being wanted. He was conscious of it. Uncertainty hung in the air of my thoughts. An inquiry lingering in silence. Would he come to regret his decision? Do you sense the fear that once held me captive? He was simply not. In reality, he had become more audacious. I caught a fleeting look from him directed towards me. Convinced that I remained unaware of his watchful eyes, his eyes were enveloped in shadows, unfathomable. Gently resting upon my lips, my hands, oh how they craft narratives of their own. The bare skin revealed beneath my dress. During dinner, he occupied the seat opposite me. His eyes held a subtle challenge, beckoning a story waiting to be revealed. In the quiet of the night, I felt his presence lingering just beyond the divide that kept us apart. As David came back home, he bestowed a fleeting kiss on my cheek, his words a mere whisper of a good night before he turned away. In that moment, Thomas grasped the unspoken truth. He felt the emptiness enveloping him with a sharp intensity, and I despised him for it. As his gaze lingered upon me, I started to unveil the profound layers of my own ignorance. On a fateful night, I encountered him deep within the heart of the kitchen. I had planned to pass by, grab a refreshing drink of water, and continue on my journey. Nevertheless, he declined to permit me. "Will you persist in donning that mask?" His voice enveloped the room in a soft, deliberate whisper. I remained motionless, ensnared in a fleeting instant of incredulity. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, embodying a moment of deep thought. For reasons that elude my understanding, I inhaled deeply, my fingers gripping the counter, searching for its steady presence to anchor me in that instant. "Thomas, this journey is not destined for us. What restrains us?" I shot him a look, brimming with unvoiced sentiments. Indeed, the motivations are intricately interlaced with the tapestry of our collective journeys. Wouldn't you agree? An age-old narrative, poised to be discovered. His gaze remained firm, resolute in its intensity. "That has never hindered you before." Heat surged through my cheeks. Ah, that was certainly a miscalculation. Thomas's jaw clenched, an unspoken tempest gathering inside him. With a resolute gait, he moved forward. At a relaxed pace, allow yourself the space to ponder and reflect. Connecting the divide. What, may I ask, is behind that tremor in your hands? My heart overflowed with contempt for him because of that. For grasping the essence of my being with such profound insight, to spark a yearning deep within my soul. As I prepared to depart, the surroundings gradually slipped away into obscurity. Just as I was on the brink of movement, his fingers brushed softly against my wrist, a delicate brush of a touch, yet it was enough, merely sufficient to regain my composure. Just enough to evoke the memory of that kiss. I quickly retracted my hand. The story has come to an end. He stood motionless, kept quiet, simply behold me with those sharp, perceptive eyes. For the very first time, a wave of uncertainty enveloped me. It left me pondering who genuinely wielded the authority. A soft murmur marked the start of it all. David's gaze lingered a heartbeat longer than necessary. He stepped into the threshold, lingering for a moment in the doorway, as though he were watching, patiently waiting for the right moment. The offhand remarks, "A silence has enveloped your presence of late. Ah, it seems you have transformed in some manner, haven't you?" Is a story being woven before our eyes? I persuaded myself it was guilt. I found myself crafting a narrative within the depths of my imagination. Yet, on a night destined to be remembered, he spoke words that sent a shiver coursing through me. "Thomas has been directing a new gaze in your direction." My breath caught in my throat. "What is it that you desire?" David's eyes remained glued to his plate, his mind adrift in contemplation. I find myself uncertain. It is rather unusual. He gazes upon you with an unwavering intensity of loyalty. He let out a laugh devoid of any hint of amusement. It appears he thinks I am not meeting my responsibilities. The dish disintegrated into oblivion upon my palate. A smile took shape upon my lips. I called upon my voice to stay resolute. How completely ludicrous. With a nonchalant shrug, David conveyed his apathy. "Certainly, perhaps, but the way he articulated it." It was as though doubt hung in the atmosphere, as if he were watching intently. With a courteous nod, I quietly departed and ensured the bathroom door was firmly closed behind me. The cadence of my heartbeat resonated in my ears. Did he possess awareness? Had he caught sight of something fleeting? Or was I ensnared in a tempest? With my hands poised on the cool porcelain sink, I studied the reflection that met my gaze. The outcome was foreordained. In this fleeting instant, just before I released the rein from my hold, in the moments that came before I lost it all. As I closed my eyes, Thomas painted my thoughts with his gentle touch, his lips weaving a tapestry of unvoiced stories. His voice brushed against my skin like a soft, whispering breeze. "Ah, I sense your arrival." And I came to comprehend. The story was far from complete, far from it. The atmosphere in that bathroom was dense, stifling, as though it shared in my silent struggle for breath. My fingers gripped the sink with a fierce intensity. My heart pounded fiercely in my chest. David possessed an acute awareness. Or perhaps he did not indeed. It might have been a hint of paranoia. What if it were something completely unexpected? What if everything crumbled to dust? I should convey it to him. Unveil your reality. Remove the layer with haste. Conclude the tumult. Yet the words slipped through my fingers. In the pursuit of truth, a heavy reluctance seized my heart, compelling me to hold onto it with unwavering grip. Thomas's eyes were a treasure I longed to capture for eternity. His hands indeed weave a narrative all their own. The feelings he awakened in me, and that was the most unappealing chapter, the murky abyss. Making excuses has never been my approach. In a distant past, I embraced the role of the devoted wife. In a time long past, there lived a devoted wife. In a time not so distant, there existed a woman who dwelled in the shadows, her heart burdened by an aching desire for a husband who appeared to glide past her, scarcely recognizing her existence. A woman who convinced herself that solitude was but a transient pause in her odyssey. However, it was not. It had intricately intertwined with the essence of my being. Now, standing on the edge of an extraordinary journey, a whisper resonated in my thoughts. Had he truly loved me, would I have ever permitted this to come to pass? Would I have longed for the touch of another? Would I have reciprocated Thomas's kiss? Little did I know, or perhaps I merely opted against it. For if I were to admit that it was David who guided me to this juncture, it was his indifference that compelled me to find comfort in Thomas's arms. In that moment, I would shed the guise of the antagonist. Perhaps this is my destiny. It is possible that I carry a portion of the responsibility. It may have been otherwise. I found myself contemplating what genuinely sent chills coursing through me. I murmured softly to myself, urging the need to release the lingering thoughts of Thomas. Ah, the kiss. A fleeting instant, captured in stillness, brimming with silent sentiments and unresolved feelings. The unveiling, the spark he kindled within me was a mistake, a transient lapse into vulnerability. There I found myself, adrift in contemplation, staring at my phone. Suspended in the air, his name hung like a whisper eager to be acknowledged, or meandering past his chamber, stunning, wondering if he had finally seen the world around him and if he still yearned for my company. The yearning I experienced for him persisted. What could possibly be more disheartening? A concealed, ignoble part of my essence harbored no remorse whatsoever, not in the way it should have. Not in a way that would compel me to stop, even with the burden of guilt pressing down. Amidst the shadows of fear, my heart yearned for him, for the way he saw me, for the feelings he ignited within me. That sensation enveloped me in a shroud of dread, for no matter how fervently I tried to stifle it, the narrative remained far from its final chapter. At this time, no. I yearn to reveal that I have brought it to a close, that I have at last come to the realization of the truth. Certainly I did. The appropriate path to take. However, the truth remains. I find myself uncertain about which direction to take in these times. Was it a mistake to long for that which had been denied to me for what felt like an eternity? Was it genuinely betrayal when the essence of my union had long since withered? Could it be the subtle touch of fate leading me softly toward the long-buried yearnings of my heart? Ultimately, everything converges to this moment. It seemed to be a decision, a fleeting instant intricately stitched into the tapestry of destiny. A choice appeared on the horizon, a moment I had awaited with bated breath. And now, let us embark on a new chapter. Thus, 2 years slipped by, each cherished moment replayed in the mind's eye. I invite you to consider, what if you found yourself in my position? What steps would you have pursued? Would you have chosen to turn away and leave? Or would you have surrendered to the unique power that stirred your very being? We invite you to express your reflections in the comments section below. Might it have been a mistake, or might it be the handiwork of destiny? Should you desire further narratives that reveal the astonishing truths of love, treachery, and the choices that define our existence,